Science meets the law of assumption. In this video, we're going to explore research that was made by a group of psychologists that really demonstrate the power of the mind, the power of belief, the power of assumption, and how it can heal the body, reverse aging, and really affect our reality deeply. And if you're like me, I absolutely love when science catch up and prove and demonstrate that all those old teaching, esoteric teaching from teachers and old civilizations were all along true, and that the power of the mind, the power of our thoughts and our belief truly create our reality. So I'm going to share with you this one research, and I think it's going to blow your mind. So let's go. And I think it's great to look at science, what they're doing, what they're proving, the research that are being made, because it cannot always reinforce your belief system that these things works, that it's not just woo-woo, or that it's not just, spiritual kind of things, but that even in the world of science, it's being demonstrated. So every time you can get any piece of evidence to support that belief system, take it. Because the more you believe in it, the more you're completely convinced that this works, the more it transforms your life and the more it accelerates your transformation. So in this simple experiment, I'm going to show you what they find out and how they basically demonstrated the power of the mind to slow down and even reverse aging and improve healing and the body condition. And so this particular research was made by a group of professors and psychologists from Harvard University, and it was led by Dr. Ellen Langer. And the name of this was called the Clockwork Study. And it was very simple. They wanted to answer the question, is aging purely biological? Is it inevitable to grow older, and as you grow older, you have all those health conditions and decay of the body? Or is aging only a number? And how much does the mind, a person's belief, a person's assumption in their health, in their self-concept regarding health, regarding all those beliefs and assumptions that they have toward aging and being old, affect the body? So they wanted to see that what would happen if a person who is between 70 and 80 years old changed their thinking. Would that create a measurable, significant effect in the body that would create or even reverse in some capacity their aging and how they felt and their physical health? And so they decided to put it to the test. So they recruited 8 gentlemen between age 70 and 80 years old. And for 5 days, they decided that the only thing they're gonna do for 5 days is to pretend, to assume, to imagine that they were 20 years younger, to forget completely the age that they have now and to imagine themselves being 20 years younger and to live as if they were 20 years younger. So that is very much the work of pretty much Neville Goddard and so many Neville teachers, right? Live in a wish fulfilled. Imagine yourself already being the person you want to be, whether it's in a health situation, whether it's in a career, whether it's at work, in your romance. Imagine yourself adopt the state of consciousness, and then your life will rearrange itself to meet that. So the researcher of Harvard University wanted to do the same thing and to demonstrate if that would work. So to make this easier for those 8 gentlemen, they drove them back into a secluded monastery and they tricked the environment. The newspaper, the TV, the radio, the set, everything was made to remind them of how life was 20 years ago. The conversation they had, the news on TV, everything that they were doing during 5 days was to be done as if it was 20 years back, in order to really help them kind of associate in this assumption that I am 20 years younger, and using the environment to create that space, so to speak. And of course, they did a bunch of tests on day 1 just to be able to measure mentally, emotionally, physically, where are those gentlemen now when they come in on day 1 and what's happening 5 days later. So they tested the grip strength, hearing, eyesight, cognitive ability, memory, and so on. How many times they go to pee or wake up in the evening, the flexibility, arthritis, blood tests, and all this kind of physical, mental, and emotional activity. How happy were they? How much energy and vitality they had, and so on. And so the experiment began, and for 5 days they pretended, they lived, they talked, they watched movies, they talked about events as if they were 20 years younger. Fast forward on day 5. The results, as you can imagine, were mind-blowing. Not only everybody, all of them, shown significant sign of feeling better emotionally, mentally, like feeling like younger, right? So you have a better energy, you have a better outlook on life, right? Mentally or emotionally, you feel more alive. But physically, they also changed. Everything improved. Not only the hearing and eyesight improved, the cognitive ability test improved by 44%, the grip strength as well. They reported waking up less to pee, walking better, better flexibility, the blood test was better, and some of them even looked drastically younger. I think it was 1 or 2 that came with an aid stick to walk around, no longer needed it by the end of day 5. They were even able to perform mild, easy physical activities such as playing football together. That's pretty mind-blowing, right? In just 5 days of pretending in fully being living, as if you were 20 years younger, in their mind, their body responded. How powerful is that? This is truly the power of belief, the power of the mind, the power of assumption that what you assume, your state of being, becomes reality. And in only 5 days, the body responded. And so what they showed from that particular experiment is that the concept that we have about aging, all those beliefs that we have, all those preconceptions, beliefs, assumptions, right? The law of assumption. Or by the time I reach 40, maybe I'll start to lose some hair or start to gain weight, or I cannot do this anymore. I have to. All those kind of things that people think or witness about aging becomes belief, expectations, and becomes in many cases a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you can see that also in some people's self-concept. When they reach a certain number, psychologically it affects them, emotionally it affects them, they become like old in their mind because they reach 40 or 50 or whatever that number is for them. And so they start to relate to themselves and life in that way, accelerating that process and starting to live and starting to find evidence of their health declining and being old. And because of that, the more evidence you look for, the more you focus on that, the more it creates that belief, the more it strengthens it, the more you have this evidence that show up more, and the more you become it, and it creates that loop. And now all of a sudden you start to relate to yourself as a old person, a broke person, a happy person, whatever it might be. Once you adopt the state of consciousness, your body responds and life responds. So in this particular case, it was about reversing aging, but this can be applied in your business. If you think you suck at sales, or you suck at being employed, or you cannot make more money than this, or your economy right now in the world is not good enough for you to be able to reach your goal, you are going to condition yourself to act between those boundaries, between that box, and create the result based on what you believe. So that, I truly believe, this amazing simple experiment is an evidence for you to support you in your belief, in your work, in your ability to question what you think, to question what you assume, to question what you think is true. Because the key understanding that generates all kind of personal transformation is always this, is to realize, truly realize that what you hold in your mind right now is not the ultimate truth. But there is another way to perceive it, to see it. There is another possibility that something else is true instead, that will dramatically create a different outlook on life. What if instead of believing that aging equals bad health, equals all those problems, we start to assume that age is just a number and that we can grow old, but we can also grow healthy? What if we started to have that self-image? How would our body respond? And what would that have in terms of physical, mental, and emotional manifestation that would have allow us to live more fulfilling life in the future? But you can also ask yourself this in any area of your life. What if you started to believe that you can earn more, that you can help more people, that you can do those things you've been afraid to do, that you don't need to think about those people who you think will judge you or talk bad about you if you do a certain things. There's a different way to look at all of this. There's a different way to look at yourself. You can start to see yourself in a way that is grander than life, in a way that is powerful and creative and charismatic and magnetic and rich and abundant and successful and magnificent and beautiful and everything else. And as you start to imagine and pretend that you are that person, you will experience it in your life. And it might come in small little things first. And if you look at those small little things first as evidence that it's working, where you give your attention is where you give your energy, and you amplify those. And all of a sudden it becomes magnified in bigger and bigger things in your field. And all of a sudden it becomes normal. And that is how you can apply the law of assumption in your own mind, the law of belief. Questions your belief. Question those assumptions that you have about aging, about your life, about your health, about your money, about everything. And ask yourself, is this really the truth? Is this the truth I want to live by? Or is there a greater possibility, a greater understanding, a greater way of seeing this? And what if I were to pretend that that was already true? And the answer to that question will lead you on a wonderful adventure. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, about this amazing experiment. And as always, like, share, subscribe. I will see you next time. Be well.